As you may have seen, I've been posting some poetry lately. But when I was at school in the 1960s, oh, it sounds an awful long time ago, doesn't it? I almost gave up poetry for good. You see, it almost felt as if the teachers were actually trying to stop us, to put us off the subject. At least that's how I felt. They would get us to read a poem by, say, Owen, Arden or McNeice, and then ask, what's the meaning of this? What they were looking for, or so they said, was some kind of deep philosophical meaning, which I will admit some of the boys played up to. I think they'd kind of learned the academic jargon already. Anyway, as I said, it was pretty well enough to put me off for life. But that all changed when I went to university in Aberdeen. For example, I joined the university student TV service, which produced a couple of live magazine programmes a week. Somehow or other, we managed to persuade visiting celebrities to come into the studio for interviews, actors, musicians and, yes, poets. When we were chatting to them, it became very clear that very few of them ever considered a deep philosophical meaning when writing. Instead, they loved the language, they loved the rhythm, they loved the sound of the words. As they explained, poetry is meant to be read out loud and listened to. It's a performance art. The other thing that changed me was the house where I lived for the first year. It was run as a student lodging house by a family I think called Benzies. Anyway, there were 6 of us who shared 3 bedrooms and had a communal dining cum living room. Two of the guys came from Dundee and were seriously into their kind of music, which is folk and rock, but they wrote and performed their own material. They had the attitude, if you have an idea, if you want to write, just do it. And so I started writing myself songs and poetry, and they were the first mostly appreciative audience. My first inspiration came from the family's young daughter, Angie. She was bright as a button, cute and cheeky as hell. I found that poem about her earlier this year when I was housebound. It was in a folder with about 50 or 60 others from the 70s, 80s, mostly awful, pretentious rubbish which deserves never to see the light of day. Others, well, maybe I'll let you decide for yourselves. Anyway, this is what I thought of Angie back in 71. There may have been a tune, but that's been long lost. Mother's little helper, mother's little spy, sitting on the front porch giving us the eye. She wakes us up when breakfast's ready, knocking on the door, crying out loud, "Tea's ready," and she's only 4. Just last Friday morning, sitting in a whirl, neighbour's cat goes running, chased by little girl. Moments later, cat comes floating back with tail unfurled. Looks kind of crazy, but you can't see Angie, for there's more cat than girl. At the end of school day, Angie comes on home, but without her school friends, she must play alone. Angie's feeling kind of lonesome, but it's not for long. Just look at her mother. Soon she'll have a brother to teach this little song. Mother's little helper, mother's little spy, sitting on the front porch, giving us the eye. She wakes us up when breakfast's ready, knocking on the door, shouting out loud, "Tea's ready!" And she's only 4. As I say, that was written a long time ago. Little Angie will by now be in her 50s. Let's hope that life has been good to her and her family.